Welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be talking about Once and Always and giving my full review of everything. Now, I will heavily state this. This contains the spoilers from start to finish. If you do not want to be spoiled, if you do not want to know what's going on, then please go watch Once and Always and then come back and watch this review and give me your thoughts. I am heavily stating right now that this is spoilers. There will be no imagery apart from maybe the trailer that has dropped. I am telling you this now before I get comments like, oh my god, you've ruined this, and etc, etc. I am giving you this warning right now. Okay? Cool. Spoiler warning. Again, spoilers. Anyway, with that, we're going to jump straight into the review. If you want my full thoughts, wait until the end of the video because I have quite a few. Yes, I have quite a few. Okay, so Once and Always, yeah, that's the thing for me right now. I will state this. I feel like the entire thing is very, very much rushed. It feels like there could be tons more things in this. I feel like there could be a load more stuff to kind of draw out this entire story. I feel that this does just feel straight away. Now, I know there are going to be people who absolutely love it, and there are going to be people who absolutely hate it. It's just going to be a thing. Yeah. So, first of all, we start off with that main battle, and again, it's not a flashback. It's also kind of very weird how it starts itself off. Like, you generally kind of want to know what's going on with it, rather than, oh, like, why are they fighting? You do kind of find out a little bit later on, but it just feels, for what it is, it feels really kind of out of place. And I'm like, oh, I'm not kind of loving it that much. But you do kind of have the opening. The music is really well done. It really kind of sets the tone. You have the Rangers kind of fighting putties and Billy morphing for the first time that we've seen in a long time. It does give a major big sense of nostalgia. You're like, okay, well, this is what I kind of experienced, and you kind of get hyped and you get kind of pumped for the fight. And especially since like all the Rangers suddenly just join in. And I kind of like that. It feels very much like the old days. And there's them going in fighting and stuff. Absolutely love it. I think this is a really decent part, but it could have been much later on, or a part of what I'm going to talk about could have been first to kind of lead the story into it. It just feels really kind of weird. But again, they're trying to set the tone and what they have. Now, I will say, Trini'S death, to me, seemed pointless. Like, there's no kind of build up to this. Like, yes, we know about what happened to Twee. We know that obviously they can't do a lot, but when I kind of watch this entire fight scene, it's so quick. And then seeing the Rangers like just kind of like walk over slightly, I feel like there's no sense of kind of like emergency, or there's like, oh my god type thing. It just feels like, here's a fight scene, there is Trini, let's get that over and done with, and then just kind of jump to like later on. It feels to me like they could have really done a lot more and really done it well, but they didn't. And it's a oh okay, it just feels like it's done too quickly. I will say, like, Robo Rita in this feels more like a threat than, say, Lord Zed or anyone. It feels like she wants revenge. She wants to kill the Rangers. And by doing this with Trini, you kind of think, oh shit, Rita's really fucking in for this. So I generally kind of really like that. You know, listening back to, say, like, to Trini and stuff, like where they have some sort of the kind of like voices that they've kind of tried to salvage. It's been a long time since I've heard Trini's voice, back in 1993, and obviously when Mighty Morphin came along. But I think at times you kind of try and listen in. You do kind of hear Kimberly, and you still kind of like hear maybe Austin. But I just generally feel like these aren't sound clips, and they've got other people. And this turns into a big thing much later on, which kind of took me out of it. With going back to Trini's death, I feel like you could have really built up to this, like really fucking hardcore this, to kind of make you go, oh my god, oh my god. But it just, again, feels rushed. It doesn't feel the greatest out there at all, and it just feels like they, again, are one and done. They had to get it done. They had to kind of show that off so that they could keep within the time limit. And Again, I'll talk about the time limit near the end of the video. As I mentioned again, seeing like Tommy, Jason and Kimberly kind of walk up slowly, like it just felt like they're just coming to have a look at, like someone's going, oh hey, look at this, and they're like, oh, I want to have a look at whatever is down there. I think that's one of the biggest things in this, because you see Billy and you see Zach and they're really like, oh my god, like what's going on, and they feel saddened because of what's going on. But no, like the others just feel like they don't want to be there. And I think that's a really big thing for me, because Trini is a very beloved character. It's meant to feel like an emergency, but we don't get this. I'm going to talk about this later because I don't want to get too much into this one early on in the review. So we're going to move on to the next part. We have the kind of aftermath of what's going on. We see Billy and Zach talking. We're going to see them say how they're going to talk to Min about this. Like, how are they going to turn around and say that Robo Rita has killed Trini? And I'm glad in the way that they're talking about this, because it's not like, oh, a month or two later. It's literally feels right after the battle. They've gone straight to Trini's house and gone, hey, we need to talk. But I feel like Zach in general is more kind of like, we shouldn't tell anyone anything. And I feel like, how are you going to explain that? Oh, Trini died. How did she die? And you got to lie to Min. In a way, like, even if they did that and it kind of led into what happened and kind of had Min angry later, would work perfectly. But I don't like the way that Zach's like, oh, well, we've got reviews and we can't do this, and I'm sorry, we can't do that, I can't say this. And Billy's like, I don't give a fuck right now. We are going to tell Min everything that's happened. We're going to say that we're Power Rangers. We're going to say what happened with Robo Rita. That's what I wanted, and that's what Billy delivers. And, I feel like that's a very good thing, because of obviously Billy was the one being attacked and Trini jumped in and saved him. And I feel like this was a very good part, and seeing Billy like lose his cool, which we never really have seen at all. I like that. That showed a lot more character development, and we've not just got the standard Billy that we had such a long time ago. So seeing Zach be like, oh no, like, we've got to keep to what Zordon said, but Billy saying, no, breaking the rules is what we need to do. That felt to me perfect. I really like that. Min obviously overhears what's going on and basically just runs out, and then we get a time skip of 1 year. And I do like a time skip, because obviously we're not having a kind of like figure out or stick about. It's literally, this is the next part of the story, we're moving on. And the fact is that you see Charlie, or obviously you see Min training and stuff like that, which I really liked. And it shows that she's doing everything right. And you know that she's going to become a ranger. She's going to train and she's got the skills for it. And I like the fact that they are showing this off to kind of say, hey, she can do all this fighting. She is trained in martial arts, and it's not just a So you know that Trini has obviously trained Min from kind of day one, which again is a fantastic thing. One thing I do kind of like is that Zach's kind of stuck about. He's not kind of just disappeared. And I know that Billy's obviously like kind of around as well, because obviously his technology company is there. But seeing how it's Zach like staying with Min, being there and actually helping her and stuff like that, it's a very nice thing. And because obviously Min is on her own, and obviously Zach wants to help. And I find that this entire episode, or the special, is more dedicated around Zach than it is with Billy, which I did kind of find very, very weird all the way through. But seeing that, Zach is like, hey, we've got 10 minutes to go till before we leave to go to the cemetery and stuff, and you kind of find out that Min's like still kind of homed in on Robo Rita, which is a good thing, because we'd all be like that. But I feel like you didn't really need to do a year's time skip, because you kind of think that everything would have kind of subsided by now. So obviously they kind of throw a little bit of kind of like humor in, and they move off to the cemetery. And I generally kind of like the cemetery part. You find out that Zach's working for Congress and stuff like that. And then this is one thing that I've always wanted to know. We always see when the Power Rangers fight and they go, it's morphing time and stuff like that. We always have the music, we always have the kind of flashy effects, but we never see like how it would work if, like, say you're walking down the street or you walked around the corner and you would see the Rangers actually hear it. So I think this is a kind of a nice moment that I like. It's in the wrong area, but you hear like Dragonzord, Pterodactyl, Tyrannosaurus, and Triceratops. So obviously the Rangers have their powers. Now, I think that they just lifted the sound from probably the TV show and stuff like that, or they've used them from online, because it does sound very much like JDF, Amy Jo Johnson, and Austin. You know, and obviously we've got David there anyway. But I really liked hearing this. And then there's no flashy effects. It's just literally they're morphed, they're ready to fight, and we see that we Robo Rita's there, and she's got Snizzard and she's got Minotaur as well. And I generally kind of really like that. One of the things that you can tell that this is definitely a more of an adult thing is hearing like Minotaur. He's saying like, you know, oh, the graves of humans, it's beautiful type thing. And that to me was a really big thing going forward, because I generally was just like, oh, that's something that we would never see or hear in Power Rangers. So kind of going from that, say, to Cosmic Fury much later on, I was generally kind of shocked, and again, this is a big thing for me. Snizzard has a brand new ability, and he basically bites them, and the poison that goes through their body paralyzes them for a short amount of time at least. And this is where he's able to kind of capture them by throwing snakes around him and then making them smaller, and thus therefore Rita's able to kind of grab the figures and put them in her machine. I generally kind of like this because we've never really seen pretty much anything like this properly, where the main heroes, the stronger heroes, they're literally the ones that get taken quite quickly. I think I would have much preferred to hear more of, obviously, Jason, Kimberly, and Tommy. Tommy you kind of hear a little bit, but they don't add a lot in. So like you kind of hear what it's like, where they've probably taken it from Super Megaforce and stuff, or from Ninja Steel, and kind of added it in together. It feels like those voices are a lot dampened down compared to if you heard Walter, or no, say Zach and Billy. When you hear those voices, everything else is really like low down. But yeah, it's kind of a weird one, and we get some kind of like Easter eggs in this kind of scene, which again, I'll be doing another video on that later. I really like the fact that Min is angry. She wants to go and fight. You know, at the point where Zach is like holding back and he's telling Min not to go there, he wants her to stay there. And then obviously he goes off and joins the team. They fight, they morph, and you know, Min is watching everything kind of going on. Now that obviously the three have been kind of captured, what are Billy and Zach going to do? And they get attacked multiple times, and it's not just a, oh shit, it's a, oh my god type thing. So you see them flying about, and like obviously Minotaur and Snizzard are going to kind of attack, which again it's so weird and so different. It's so like fresh, because we don't normally see the Rangers always get their ass handed to them. It's a nice thing to kind of see in some sort of way. Billy and Zach have powered down because for some strange reason they're powering down. They get back into the rad bug, they tell Min to get in there. And one thing I really liked is when you look at the different faces, Billy looks concerned, like he's like, shit, we've got to get out of here. But Zach is very scared, and he's just like, and you can see that kind of fear in his face, and obviously that could be linked back to Trini, which again would be a thing. Billy drives the rad bug off, and I like the fact that Rita goes, "Oh, you cowards," type thing, and I'm just like, really, are you going there? Because like all the other monsters have all teleported away in the past. So I always like it when the bad guys get a little bit snippy and stuff like that. Snizzard and Minotaur, they kind of like teleport in front of Billy when he's driving, and they have to stop. And I kind of like this because we never really see like bad guys use their teleportation skills straight away. With this, Billy actually turns the rad bug and they fly off. Now, one thing that you will hear a lot of, and mainly it switches between them, is Rita will call Billy Cranston. And I kind of really like this because in a way it just feels like, rather than like, oh, Billy, we're going to get you, it's like, oh, well played, Cranston. You know, you're running from now, but you can't run forever type thing. So I like that Rita is using this and using their surnames. I think I would have liked it if she used it on all of them, but it's just literally she singles out Billy, which kind of reminded back of Mighty Morphing, where, you know, it's like, oh, if we get into Billy's head, then he won't be as strong as normal. So yeah, I generally kind of thought that's a really kind of cool thing. As this scene is coming to an end, and everyone's teleported out, we see the tombstone of Trini, and it actually gives us a date of when she was born to when she dies. And now this also means this cements that the fact that we've had, I think, our first death of a Ranger. Like, not the actors and actresses, it's mainly like the first actual death that is properly canon that I remember. We're not going to count Kendrick's because she comes back in Lost Galaxy. But the fact is, this completely and utterly cements this as maybe the first fallen Ranger. If there are other Rangers that have said that they've been killed, please let me know in the comments. But right now, all I know is that Trini is the first Ranger that has actually died, and it's cemented. It's quite a oh shit type moment because we're not used to this right now. So the next big part of the conversation is that Billy and Zach are wondering how their powers are being used, what Rita's plan is. And when you see Min come up and say, look, you know, we've got to go destroy Robo Rita, I kind of got really annoyed with both Billy and Zach, where they're like putting it down, saying, no, stop it. Like, they obviously know of the training that's been going on, because Zach would have seen the training all along. But it's the way that they kind of really dismiss Min a lot. And when Min's like, you know, I'm going to go and fight, I want to do this, they're like, no, you're not, you know, this is Ranger business. And I'm just like, the fact is that it would be her business regardless, because what's happened, her mother has died. And I feel like that is a huge thing, not something to be kind of dismissed. And I kind of got really annoyed at Billy and Zach for this. But I think one thing that I really didn't expect is for Min to turn around and go, you know, oh, you're the reason why my mom died, and you know, she would still be here if it wasn't for you type thing. And Billy's like, and she goes, it stings, doesn't it? Now, normally you get a thing where it's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, like, you know, I didn't mean what I said. But the way she looks at Billy and walks off, I was like, holy fucking shit, this is huge. And I kind of like it because it's the consequences of what Billy has done to actually get this far, and it's not something where it's going to be kind of like smoothed over straight away. And there's so much anger running through Min at the moment, which I really got to give for Charlie for being able to portray this, because it works so well. Billy and Zach then head off to Cranston Tech. Rita is now stealing the energy from the Rangers, and this starts a whole thing about finding the other Rangers, which I didn't think was a bad thing. The plan is set up, it's starting to be executed, and it's going on, and I think it's kind of nice to see, and it felt like there was a plan which we've not seen for a long time. It feels like this is a very let's go for this straight away. We know where Cranston Tech is right now. It's that command center, and it's not the best 3D model one out there. We have Alpha 9, and we do get some kind of references from Mighty Morphin Season 1 meeting. We meet Alpha 9, as I mentioned, and we get kind of some remorse from Billy, and this is one of the biggest keys. Now, I think I would have probably have had this at the very beginning, so we do get kind of a small flashback, but we find out where Robo Rita comes from, and I'm sorry guys, it's definitely not Scrozzle, it's actually Rita from when the Z-Wave hit her. So in this scene, basically, we kind of get a flashback, and Billy is kind of excited. They've been looking for the particles of Zordon to kind of bring them back, and that's the reason why the tube is there. So as they kind of find out, they scan the area, or they scan the universe, and suddenly they start pulling in all these particles. You see the tube light up, and you see like energy ripping everywhere. And it's like Billy is extremely excited to see what's going on. Like, have they brought Zordon back? But then it all turns purple, and there's energy everywhere. Alpha 8 is shitting his pants, or is shitting his circuits right now. And then suddenly a crack happens in the tube, and energy comes out and takes over Alpha 8's body. And basically you hear it saying like, oh, danger, danger, like, you know, stop this, like, you know, what's going on? And literally Alpha knocks Billy across the room, and this all of a sudden Alpha turns into Robo Rita. Robo Rita goes like, oh, finally, after all these years, I'm free. And I was like, oh shit, that's actually a really cool way of doing it. Then we have Rita turning around and having a go at Billy, saying like, you know, oh, the Z-Wave did this, and like, you know, it wasn't all Zordon's particles like shattered everywhere. It was literally all her particles were everywhere, and now they're all in one place. which Billy has helped Rita do, and she attacks Billy in the command center. One thing I really like about all of this is the fact is that they took their time, and it wasn't just a, oh yeah, like, you know, I'm back. Like, they talk about the Z-Wave, they talk about what happened in Countdown to Destruction very briefly, and I like the fact that Billy is just shitting his pants and running for it, because who wouldn't? You have Rita right there, and it's like, what the actual hell? But this was a really good way of kind of introducing Rita. And again, definitely wasn't Scrozzle doing this one. So there's that. The Bandora protocol has been initiated, and it calls in the other Rangers. It calls in Cat, and it calls in Rocky. And they're both kind of like talking about what's going on. We hear more reference to JJ. He's at like kind of like karate school or something, like karate camp. And obviously we now know that Rocky is a firefighter, which again, I do kind of think that was meant to be Austin's role if he was able to kind of return and do it. So I kind of think that they just shoved Rocky into that one, and he makes a joke about that he's just eating his lunch, and is this a training thing? Putties are pretty much everywhere, which is really nice to see because we don't normally see it. And there's a lot of putties. It's just not like 6 that we normally see. There's like a whole army of them. So with the Bandora protocol being active for the very first time, we see that Cat and Rocky teleport in. We hear what they've been doing. You know, it's basically Cat was looking at the karate school for JJ, and then obviously Rocky was at work, and then they kind of talk about it. They say like, oh, Robo Rita's actually back. And then they kind of move on. It switches over to a Min scene, which I generally didn't like. It felt very forced. It didn't feel like a very decent one. It just felt like it's like, I'm angry, but the anger wasn't there. Min is attacking this training dummy for a while, and she suddenly pulls out her phone because an alert goes off. And when I first saw this, I thought it was the Ranger hotline, but it obviously wasn't. So Min sees Buzz Blast, and I really like the fact that Buzz Blast was in this, that it's referred to, because at the end of season 2 of Dino Fury, you know, Jane was saying that she wants to open Buzz Blast Angel Grove, so obviously it has. Very nice kind of like callback to that one. And we see that there are tons of putty attacking the, or putties attacking the youth center. Again, not a bad thing so far. I generally kind of like seeing so many putties like around, and we see Min run off, so we know where she's going. We get an explanation of what's happening at the command center. They talk about the fact that they're going to need a Megazord, and you know, with basically without Kim as well as Jason, you know, they start saying like, oh, are we going to get the Dino Megazord up? But obviously that there's another element to this. They talk about how for months they've been working on getting the saber-toothed tiger to run without actually having a Yellow Ranger working with it, which again was a really nice thing, because obviously they don't know what's going to happen in the future. So this was future-proofing it for it to happen. And I generally kind of like this. Find out that there are putties again downtown, and then the Rangers go off and morph. Now, when it came to the morph sequence, I'm not a huge super fan of it. It felt very, like, it could have been worked on a lot. It just felt very like maybe I would have liked to have seen like something previous where you have the kind of, how do I say, like, you know, you have the just the head and the arms type thing. I think that would have been really, really cool. But we get kind of a basic morph, and I know some people are absolutely going to love it and some people are going to hate it. So the Rangers now go downtown and they go off and fight all the putties. Because they're morphed, Minotaur can actually pick them up and like scan them and go, oh, there are Rangers morphed, and they go down with Snizzard straight downtown, and they all start fighting. I think the one thing I do generally kind of like in this is the fact that there is a bit of like kind of like a bit of tongue-in-cheek, because they go, oh, hang on a minute, didn't we capture the red and pink Ranger? And both Rocky and Cat turn around and say like, yeah, different people, same power type thing, or different Rangers, same power. I kind of really like that, because I wanted a little bit more of this tongue-in-cheek, but I feel like they didn't for some strange, bizarre reason. But who knows? Rocky gets captured quite easily, and obviously Billy doesn't want what happened to Jason like happen again, so he pulls out his blaster and he blasts the putties, and then Rocky does this kind of jump spin kick, which again reminded me of Turbo, and I generally kind of really thought, do you know what, that's actually kind of nice to see it. I do really like the tracking ability as well, because it just means that no matter where the Rangers go, they're able to kind of go, oh, you're going to be right there. So it'd be interesting to know how Rita was able to kind of put that power into Minotaur. So the Rangers do kind of find out all about this because Alpha is listening over the CCTV and stuff, and he tells the Rangers, hey, look, if you're going to morph and you're going to be there, like the Minotaur and Snizzard are going to be able to track you, watch out. So we see that the Rangers are saving people around the city quite a bit, and I generally really like that. That to me felt like the Rangers were doing the thing, but it felt like they were overrun. It's like, right, we've finished one area, we've got to run here. We've done that area, we've got to run there. They're running here, they're running there, and that's the main thing. And I generally like that. I felt like that was a very Power Ranger thing to do. So as soon as Minotaur and Snizzard like teleport in, they find the Rangers, they demorph, and then the Rangers kind of teleport away back to the command center. Back at the command center, it's very, very simple. They start talking about what's going on, and we get kind of a cameo from Adam and Aisha. They're saying like they're around about 6 hours away, but they do kind of drop in the SPD references, and that's one thing I generally really liked, because it felt like it was a thing to link it in, because obviously we haven't had anything linked to SPD and we're coming up to the time for that. So hearing like Adam and Aisha say, look, you know, we're going to fight the Truvian Empire. I think I said that right. You know, your technology that helped us, Billy, that's the best thing right now, etc., etc. I really thought that was fantastic. I liked it. But then again, I'll talk about what I feel about Adam and Aisha in this, you know, about in a bit. More alarms kind of go off all the time, and we see that Min is fighting putties in the juice bar, or the juice center. You've got Zach and Billy really worried what's going on. We then jump to the juice center, and it's literally all go. Min is trying to fight the putties, and she's doing very well. She gets all the people out there, but when she gets really over cocky and then is like, well, you know, I've got a morpher now, the putties do actually go, oh shit, oh no, what are we gonna do? And that really made me like laugh, because I generally thought like the putties have always had this, like they follow commands. So them laughing that Min couldn't morph, so they're like, oh great, we're safe. And then very soon, when she goes to attack the putties, they overpower her. And it gets to the point where you see all of that kind of like fighting anger just literally drain away, because the putties basically body slam her into the bar, and she's scared. Like she's literally trying to get away and cower. And I generally thought that she would be like, no, I'm going to do this. But she knows what danger she's in. And I was like, that's really well played. And I felt for that brief moment that she was in danger. Then obviously we get Zach and Rocky teleport in, and they take on the putties. They kind of like fight about, and it lasts quite a while. We get Hip Hop Keto again. I generally really liked seeing that. It felt fantastic seeing it. And yeah, there was just kind of like a really nice thing seeing that kind of that nostalgia back. And I really like Mingo. Are you breakdancing fighting or something? I was like, that's actually really, really cool. Fantastic. Zach at the juice bar gives a little bit of a speech towards Min, and they all teleport and they go back to the command center. Everyone is now back at the command center, and Min just gives Billy the cold shoulder. They have a plan that they're going to stop Minotaur and Snizzard. So obviously you have Rocky and you have Billy kind of just teleport away. You know, Zach gives Min this huge speech saying like, why do you want to be a ranger? Like, you know, is it because it's the fighting? Is it because of this? And Min really is angry because she wants to fight. She wants to take Robo Rita down. But Zach gives this huge speech and says like, look, you can't go off just because of this fighting. Like, you can't just go and ignore. You have to do this. And, you know, you have to do all of this is selfish like deeds. You're not doing it for a reason. And I think this slowly gets to Min because she starts to kind of loosen up a bit. Zach talks about what happened with Billy, how Billy feels really, really bad on this. And Min starts kind of like loosening up a bit and kind of like wanting to listen. Min also talks about Zach's job in Congress and stuff like that. We get kind of more of a talk of Zordon, and I feel that, you know, Zach really misses Zordon wholeheartedly, just wants to kind of talk about it and like, you know, say, hey, like he was a father figure and stuff, and like we miss him and he was taken away and stuff like that. And I kind of thought, oh, that's a really, really big thing right there. So it shows that literally Zach really misses Zordon. So this is the one part that I think is generally really cheesy no matter what. And the fact is that the Rangers have got a giant magnet. Yeah, that's right. It's a giant magnet. And they want to make sure that they captured Snizzard as well as like Minotaur. So they do that. They basically set it all up. They morph. And basically Snizzard and Minotaur pick up the signal, and Rita sends them down after we see that we've got the yellow Zeo Ranger, the one Ranger figure that we've not been able to figure out. We have now. And that's it. They literally put it there. It's such a weird thing. But again, like, I know that we wouldn't get another figure or something like that. They go down. Snizzard and Minotaur appear at the junkyard, and they get caught in the magnet trap. And that's it. It's so weird. But hey, I guess that is the biggest part right there. So when they're back at the command center, they're like, yeah, we've got them in the trap. The trap's absolutely fine, blah, blah, blah. But Min's like, why aren't you destroying them? Why are you letting them stay there? And Billy's like, look, we're not going to go for destruction. We're going to have the part where we have to kind of think about what's going on in the plan. And I think Min doesn't see this. Some of the tech that Billy has made can turn people invisible. And this is what he gave to Adam and Aisha so that they could go against the Trulian Empire. I said that wrong. But this is one of the major parts which sends them, teleports them all up to the Moon Palace. That's where they know that the Rangers are being held. That's where the machine is. Min overhears all of this as she basically grabs one of the devices, like literally leaves it, leaves Cranston Technologies, which when you see all the cars there, there's not many people there. And I would imagine that Billy would have an empire of people there, but he doesn't. It just feels really weird that there's not that many people working there. So, with all this, she decides to go to the junkyard. When Min is going to the junkyard, we see our first male couple in Power Rangers. Now, I think this is an absolutely amazing thing. I just kind of wish that it was more emphasized and more kind of shown, like with say 2 male Rangers, or the same things that we've done with Izzy and Fern. I just kind of feel that this was put in. I'm glad that they have put it in, don't get me wrong. I just kind of wish this entire thing was done again with 2 male Rangers. Min gets to the junkyard, and it's absolutely funny because she's like, oh, do you remember me? And Snizzard's like, look, we work for an intergalactic war criminal. Who are you? And I thought this was quite funny. And again, this is what I would have loved to have seen, a bit more humor in the entire thing. But we see a fight with Min versus Robo-Rita, and dear God, it was a very good fight, and I absolutely loved it. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and I would have loved to have seen this a little bit more extended. But again, Rita is really scary. She wants to kill. It's not like I'm going to fight you, it's I want to kill you. And I'm like, dear God, we need this in Power Rangers. Dear God, we need this more in Power Rangers. So seeing this entire thing, I felt was a fantastic thing. I absolutely loved this fight scene, and Min gets captured. We know this because we've seen the picture where she's on the moon. I think the reason why I like this a lot of fight scene is because we see that Min is just full of rage. She just wants to destroy Rita, but all of that is clouding her judgment. So when she gets captured, but we don't, it's not like a quick thing. It's like it's like maybe a couple minute scene fight. Again, which is I think is absolutely perfect. So we now have the Rangers on the moon base. The device is being guarded by putties, but obviously because the Rangers are invisible, they go off and fight. Yeah, that's it. They go off and fight. I can see the reason why, but it being like a one device, like a one-time thing, I generally thought it was a bit weird because Billy's made it. He could have used it multiple times, but I'm guessing for the plot of the story, So as soon as they figure out what's going on, time travel is being involved. The Rangers from different eras have been all there, and the powers are being drained. Rita just turns up with Snizzard as well as Minotaur, and they start talking. They, literally Rita goes after Billy so hard in this, and I was like, do you know what? That's something a little bit more different than normal. I feel like the reason why Rita is going after Billy is because she is basically Alpha 8. And that was something that they, it's his creation. So let's focus on Billy. I did really like the fact that as soon as Rita's speaking, Billy summons the Blade Blaster and just shoots Snizzard. Just like, nope, you're going to shoot it. I think that would have been a little bit better if he hit it a little bit. But I think one Blade Blaster blast would not have done that much damage. So yeah, so we get like a huge, massive fight. And basically, Rita still goes in on Billy a lot and says, hey, this is what's happened. I'm going to kill you again, and I'm going to do this. And as Rita turns around and says, you know, Trini died for nothing, you know, protecting you, or, you know, she died, yeah, something like that. And Rita grabs the staff and fires an energy bolt. Min jumps in the way after she's gotten free from Minotaur and gets hit by the blast, which then goes straight into the Morpher, because that's obviously where it's hit. And it kind of unlocks the power, and then we get the whole thing of like, hey, you've unlocked the power because selfless on this one. And it therefore kind of goes in as normal. And, you know, she has a flashback to say, hey, here is everything that's been going on. Yep, this is a thing. And yeah, like she wakes up and has the ability to use the Morpher. Again, it's nice to see the kind of flashback to everything, and I really kind of liked it. I just kind of like, it felt like it could have been a little bit more. But yeah, it was really nice. It was a nice way to say, hey, you now have the power. And then we get a morph, a group morph, and it's really nice to see everything as normal. It just feels like the way that they're doing the graphics for the morphing wasn't that great, and it could have been a little bit better, just a little bit more better. But I like the fact that we get a full morph, and then we get a massive fight with all the Rangers taking down the Putties, going after Minotaur and Snizzard. There's a lot of stabbing. Yep, there's a lot of stabbing in this, and it just feels a bit wrong on it. As Kat is going to shoot the device and go for it, Rita goes, better not go with that, you'll hurt your friends. And then she grabs Snizzard and then throws, as in Rita throws Snizzard like out over onto like the moon. And I didn't like this because it looked like Snizzard was huge, and it felt like they just basically grabbed the scene and like made him huge, and then that was it. And then obviously make him like bigger anyway, because we do get the magic words of magic wand, make my monster grow. And what I like is the fact that Billy goes, she's distracted, and then he stabs her right through the chest. And I think what I would have liked to have seen is like a hole still there, like even if it was some battle damage, because when Billy pulls his lance out, you don't see much. It's like, oh, like the lance just disappears and there's no wound. And you kind of think, if you had something stuck through your chest, there would be something there. And yeah, I just didn't kind of like it. Obviously, with Snizzard growing up, we get the fact that Billy calls in the Dinozords, and we get the Megazord sequence fight. I obviously they've used the Zap models that they obviously have done. I just didn't think it worked very well. Now, I will say it's so much better than what we've seen in Zenkaija and Dom Brothers, but I generally would have thought that they would have made the movements of the Megazord flow a bit better. It just felt very bulky in my eyes, and I really wish that they got in contact with Toei and actually had the Megazord suit, because obviously we know it's been redone for Zenkaija. I feel like that would have worked so much better, but I do like the fact that they were able to kind of make their 3D stuff, and I feel like that was quite decent enough as it is. I just kind of wanted a little bit more. I love the cockpit design. I think it's really nice, and I like the fact that Billy was driving. Like he wasn't kind of set to the side where he normally sits. He was the one front and center. Generally thought that this was absolutely fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. So I wanted to kind of give them kudos for making a beautiful set, which I really hope that they've got saved and not just kind of like burnt down to the ground. Zack, Rocky, and Kat actually destroy Minotaur. Again, more stabbing. Rocky basically jumps in, grabs, like obviously uses his power sword and just literally slams it into the chest, like blade first, like the point, and they kill Minotaur. And they're like, yep, that's absolutely fine. And then they teleport into the Megazord, and you know, they're all in different kind of seats. And yeah, just seeing Rocky in the back, him just controlling it, felt a little bit weird, because normally we have the Red Ranger at the very beginning, at the very front and center. So they defeat Snizzard. Generally was like, what the hell? Like, it didn't feel like a very good battle. It just felt like we need to get over this really quickly. There you go. You're done. Get out the way. And that was one thing that kind of made me go, Rita somehow survives. Yeah, that's it. Rita survives and turns on the machine because it's fully powered, because the Rangers didn't think, hey, let's try to stop something, because obviously they can't. So Rita opens up the portal. We see the two astronauts. opening up the thing, and the Rangers are very scared. You know, suddenly we see Rita kind of come out of the dumpster and going like, after 10,000 years. The Rangers teleport in, and literally Min throws her daggers, pins Rita all the way to the balcony. Then after Kuznetsov's destroyed, literally all the stuff is freed. Billy and Rocky grab the Rangers, and then Kat destroys the machine. And then basically when Rita's like, I'm gonna kill you, Zack takes the final shot and literally kills Robo Rita. And I was like, okay, that's really cool. I always thought it was going to be Min, and I was right when I said at least they're going to do a blast to kind of kill it. It wasn't the power blaster, but at least it was the power weapons that destroyed them in the end. It's all good fun. I generally kind of really liked it. So we now have the scene where it's Adam and Aisha at the command center, and I generally don't think that they needed to be there whatsoever. It just felt like, why are you even there? Like, you could have just done this in the studio and been, you know, we can't get to you, sorry about that, and then move on. It just felt to me very, very weird. And then we get kind of some talk about Aquitar as well as Sestria and stuff like that, and yeah, the Rangers kind of teleport out. The end part of this is that we do get the juice bar. We do get them talking, and Min apologizes to Billy because she felt bad for what she said, and obviously she's family. And Billy doesn't go like, oh yeah, okay. He accepts it because he has thought about this 1,000,000 times over, exactly what's happened. And I generally kind of really liked the kind of like the chemistry between Zack, Billy, and Min, because it felt good. We do get Ernie's name dropped, which I generally thought was kind of cool. And then obviously Min talks about seeing her memories of her mother, and you know, shows Billy the Morpher, and he obviously keeps it. Like, he doesn't hand it back. It just disappears. So I don't know if it's gone into Min's bag or something, or Billy's just decided, hey, I'm going to keep this from now on, so you can't ever use it until I give it to you again or whatever. So I felt like all of this was kind of nice. The closure was very nice, and it was a nice way to kind of end it, hearing some memories. Now, one thing that you will see is they use a clip from Down the Road where it's basically Kimberly singing to Tommy with Zack, and therefore they show that little bit, and then at the end it says like, in memory of Twee Trang and Jason David Frank. And I thought that was a very fitting ending. I really, really kind of liked it. I thought it was really nice. And yeah, I know it's going to make some people cry on that one. And then we get just a really weird, random MMPR type edit where, like, it felt like they couldn't put it at the very beginning, because it would have felt like, yeah, I don't know. It would just felt really weird, but yeah, they included it. And a new rendition of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers is played. Okay. Right, this is my entire thoughts. I wrote essays on this, so I'm going to try and get it done. So if it looks like I'm reading it, I am. Okay, so my entire thoughts on this. I feel like this was entirely rushed. I enjoyed some of the elements, but I didn't feel like this special was really done well. Some things did work and some things didn't. And I think mainly it got to the point where I was left that I wanted more from this, but I felt like it wasn't I need to know more. Like, I want to know more because I'm confused on why certain things weren't addressed, why they didn't talk about things, why they didn't do a lot. And to me, that really did kind of annoy me a little bit, because I generally just felt like, like, I wanted more answers, but I got more questions than I did answers. I feel like some elements needed more exploring. Like, I felt like at the very beginning with Trini'S death, it just, again, like I said before, I feel like it was over and done with really quickly. There was no build up. It was just like, we need to get this done. Like, I generally think if they re-edited some of the elements in it, it would have worked absolutely, like, perfect. But to me, I just felt like it was rushed, and I didn't like that at all. I felt like some of the lore that they had didn't fit in. Like, they had to rush it to kind of get it out. I really like the more mature elements, and I thought that that was absolutely fine. But I generally thought that, again, it left me meh. With Zack at the very beginning of the special, I generally really thought that he didn't care. He wanted to keep the legacy of Zordon. What Zordon had said goes, and you can't go against what Zordon has like put down. And I generally didn't like that. Knowing that if I was in that position and I found out that my mother had died because of Robo Rita, I would want to be told. And if I found out that Zack was like, no, we can't tell her anything, I wouldn't have spoken to Zack ever again. So seeing that sort of element I didn't like, because it didn't feel like Zack, and it just felt like Zack wanted to keep the Power Ranger thing super secret. That, yeah, Trini probably would have said to Min, hey, I'm a Power Ranger, and then this is it. And then she would have gone on a lot more to it. I also kind of felt like, even though that Billy, to me, was a bit kind of like, you know, we've got to tell Min, we've got to do it. It felt like he didn't want to be there or try and be there for Min in my eyes. Like, there is a core amount of stuff that you would probably say, but I generally felt most of the time like Billy was just like, we need to get this done, we're doing this. And maybe that was his coping mechanism. Maybe he wanted to do that so he could like get Robo Rita destroyed so that Rita would never do this again. But I just felt at times Billy was a little bit out of place. With Billy, I did like the burst of anger. I did generally like that because it felt like he was very frustrated and he wasn't being listened to. So I did kind of like that part about Billy. I will say that the whole adult tone felt a lot better, and I think this is the way it should be from now on, because Power Rangers has always had this like honed back type thing, but all of this felt really natural. It's like, this is how Power Rangers should be. But I also still kind of think that they kept it towards kids to some degree, you know, because they didn't want a more diverse, or should I say more direct line or something like that. Like, here's the story, this is for the adults. No, we're going to kind of like play around a little bit. But the adult tone was absolutely fantastic. I know Charlie's portray of Min was absolutely fantastic. I really liked what she did all the way through. Apart from that one scene where she's attacking that stump thing, but all the rest of the time, I really liked her acting, and I really want to see her come back for a lot more, because I feel like it would be absolutely like spot on perfect. I like the fact we saw no Sentai footage. I felt like Power Rangers now doesn't need Sentai footage. We have Megazord CGI, which would work well if it looked a lot better than what it was. And again, they took so much time with it. But I generally really think that having no Sentai footage made this extra special. You know, it means that they can now bring back powers at any point, and they don't have to stick with the same thing all the time. There are scenes in this that I think could have been really more extended more than anything, and I feel like that's what needed to be done. Some scenes felt short, some scenes didn't fit well, and I think that you could have expanded them a bit more. This easily should have been at least an hour and a half to 2 hours. That to me is what I wanted the most from this. But, you know, obviously I don't know if it was Netflix or Hasbro that decided on the 55-minute thing, but this needed more. There were more answers that we wanted, but we never got them, and that I think was a massive shame. I do think that this could probably be an extended cut, which I would really love to buy on like Blu-ray or something like that, or stream it. One thing is Bulk and Skull, even though there was a photo of them or kind of a billboard of that, I felt like they needed to be in this, like even at the very end or something, they needed to be in this, and I feel kind of really annoyed that they weren't. It doesn't feel like a Mighty Morphin reunion without them, and I don't know what the reason is, if they couldn't do it due to like work or whatever, but I just felt a sign on there just wasn't the best. I felt like there could have been more to it, but it's nice seeing that they opened their own business. Wholeheartedly hope that goes well. I really did kind of like that. Okay, so I want to talk about Adam and Aisha's cameos. This did not need to be in. I felt like this was only in for the SPD stuff. I generally really didn't think that they needed to be there, which was a big shame. Like, we all thought they had a massive big plot, but they didn't, and it just felt like, oh, we'll be there in 6 hours. Well, and then we're here at the end say, oh, we're going to take the Rangers back and make them bigger on Aquitar, and that was it. I generally just thought, what is it even in there? You could have had them on screen again. So I don't know the reason why they decided. I don't know if they have a bigger part in it, and I would really like to ask them if they had a bigger part in this. But majority of the time, I just don't think that they needed to be in it, which again, probably is the thing, and I know people will probably disagree with me. But there was nothing in there apart from linking it to SPD. This also felt like this was all about Zack. This was all about him, and that was it. And while I don't mind it because it's kind of nice, and we find out that he is now works in Congress, or he is part of the Congress, I think that was absolutely cool. But sometimes Zach felt like, at the very beginning at least, like he wasn't himself. Now he does, and I generally thought, okay, that's really, really cool. I generally like that later. So seeing all that, fine. I just didn't like Zach at the beginning, but I really liked his character much later on because obviously his love for Min. The giant magnet, yeah, that was cheese. I generally kind of thought that was funny though. I generally liked it, and I liked the fact that Minotaur and Snizzard were just like literally just, we can't do anything. We're just gonna hang here. One of the biggest things in this is that Rita steals the show. I generally thought that Rita wanted to kill them. Like that was the main part of this, and it didn't feel like it was phoning home. It was, Rita is now interacting with the Rangers. She is on Earth. She is wanting to kill them. I generally liked that, and I wanted to see more. Like, I liked some of the references that she made in this. I liked some of the stuff that she was doing, but it felt like she was getting her hands dirty. It wasn't like, oh, I'm now going to be on the moon, I'll send my minions down. She's like, I'm going to go kill some Rangers because I feel like it. So when we see like characters like Lord Zed coming back and actually being hands-on, I loved this. I generally didn't know if Rita was just going to stay in the Moon Palace and then that was it. But I felt like she wanted to kill them, and that was just fantastic. I think what really annoyed me is Snizzard at the very end, where he's thrown to the ground on the moon, but it looks like he's huge. And I felt like this maybe was a cut from earlier. This is something that didn't make in because it just felt like he was too bulky and all of that. The Megazord fight again, I feel like could have been 10 times better. Like, it just felt very bulky. It didn't feel right. I didn't enjoy it that much. They also didn't put in the, Megazord has been activated. Well, where was that? Like, they had Ron back. They could have got a whole score of what they did with Power Rangers. The whole thing where it's like the Danger MMPR theme where it's like, oh my god, it's panicky, it's panicky, it's panicky. Why didn't they ask Ron to do that? I would have loved to have seen more Easter eggs. It felt just at times that they rushed certain things in, like, oh, we're gonna go Marinoi, or we're gonna do this. I generally wanted more Easter eggs, like stuff that I could see in the background that I could geek out over, little tiny things. But that, from what I've done a video on it, but I couldn't really find a lot, and that really made me kind of go like, oh, like you could have put so much more stuff in there. But yeah, there's that thing with the whole conclusion is I'm on the fence with this. I do like it. I feel like we got some closure on certain things, but I don't think we got closure on certain things, and that really did kind of irritate me on whole loads of different levels and stuff like that. Like, I generally thought that this is probably the best closer, but it does open up the arms to say, hey, we can now probably have other things like happening, or we can have other things going on, like, oh, we can have new Rangers come in. We don't have to rely on Sentai footage. And I feel like this was a huge, big way of saying, yes, we've got the suits. We don't have to do Sentai footage. And that's what I'm kind of looking for. I just want more from it. Like, I would have liked more answers. If there is an extended version, which I'm hoping that there is, then I would love to see it. I felt like some scenes were cut short. I feel like some acting wasn't as great. There are times when listening to Kat and Rocky that I didn't think that they were actually voicing the characters. And that's really, really like infuriated me on many, many levels, because I wanted to know if they were there. It just felt like some days maybe they were sick, so they got some people to sound like it. I don't know. I just generally feel like there could have been more to it. Would I recommend this? Yeah, because I do like it to some degree. I think there's some elements, but I feel like this was too quick. I felt like there was no time to calm down. Like the whole thing with Trini'S death, I generally think that could have been like, there was no remorse. It was like, we need to get this over and done with, and then that's it. So yeah, I just feel like there feels like some lack of things in this. But yeah, this video is long enough. But yeah, that's my kind of full breakdown, my full review on Power Rangers Once and Always. What do you think about it when you see it? Let me know down below in the comments. Share with me your favorite moments. And with that, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this sort of content and you want to hear and see more, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Check out the channel memberships. And with that, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for listening, and I will catch you in the next video. I want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to shout out Kimono Cat. Your help does go a long way to support the channel, and if you want to consider helping the channel, then links to my Patreon as well as the channel members are listed below.
あらあら、チャンネルをサポートしてくれてありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、 高評価お願いします。